Ow, there's something in my eye. Ow. Why? Hey, it's Sue in the restricted section. Today I'm doing my August wrap-up, so let's do it. The first book that I read this month was Dune by Frank Herbert. My buddy read this with Erica from The Perks of Books and Adam from Memento Mori, who I will link down below. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I'm pretty proud of myself for having read this book finally, because this, you might have seen in some of my past videos, and I just hit myself in the head with it, but this was one of the most intimidating books on my shelf to me. And I did it, I read it, and I really liked it. It is a very slow read. It's very detailed, very meticulous, but really good. Dune is set on a desert planet called Arrakis. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I've never seen any of the movie adaptations or anything, so I don't know how the words are pronounced. But it's set on this desert planet called Arrakis, aka Dune, and it follows mainly a young boy. I think he's 14 or 15 at the beginning of the story, and his family is a noble family. His father is the Duke of a different planet, on a different planet called Caladan, I think, which is like a lush Earth-like planet where there's lots of water. And then they go to Dune, where there of course is no water, and they're betrayed and the Duke is killed, and so Paul, the young boy who's the heir to this throne, if you will. Oh god, what did my cat just destroy? And then this young boy, Paul, who is the Duke's heir, and his mother have to go into hiding, sort of, with the freemen who are natives to Dune. And Paul sort of becomes this, like, I don't know what you call it, maybe like a savior type figure. He's sort of worshipped in a way by the people of Dune. It goes into this political system quite in depth. It also sort of goes into the ecology of the planet Dune, because I'm sure you guys have heard of the sandworms, and they live under the sand, and they also have something to do with the creation of the spice, which is why this planet is so desirable, because it has the spice, which is like an addictive substance that also, it supposedly like heightens your senses and makes your mind more open and whatever. So yeah, all in all, this was, it says science fiction's supreme masterpiece, and I'd have to agree, it was quite a masterpiece. I did give it 4 out of 5 stars. It wasn't a completely 5-star read just because it was, I don't know, just very slow and not always completely enjoyable to read, but I did end up really liking the overall story, and I will probably at some point continue on reading the series. I know there's like tons of Dune books now. I think his son writes a lot of them now that he's passed away, but yeah, Dune was pretty awesome. Now that I've rambled about that book for forever, the next book I finished in August was The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. Continuing on with the nerdiness. I don't know why I never read this. I read and loved the Lord of the Rings trilogy when I was a kid, but I never picked up The Hobbit, and so I finally did, and I fucking loved it. Yeah, this, in case you didn't know, again, follows Bilbo Baggins, and as he goes on a journey with these dwarves, as well as the wizard Gandalf, to recover some treasure on this mountain, which is guarded by a fierce dragon. They get into all kinds of trouble and have all manner of fun adventures along the way. Well, you know, not really fun for them, but they were fun to read about. And I loved it. I gave it 5 stars because it was just so good. So good. I love Tolkien. The next book that I read this month was the book Shrill by Lindy West, which is a collection of essays that she wrote about her experiences being a plus-size woman, and also she was very outspoken about rape culture and about rape jokes not being funny, and so she writes about that and some experience she had with internet trolls. I didn't mention she's a writer. She writes largely on the internet, and she works for GQ now, I believe. She used to write for Jezebel, but I did not really a review, it was more of a discussion video, which I'll link down below if you're interested. But I absolutely loved this book too. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I think it was extremely relatable for me, and I agreed with pretty much everything she said in it. But even, I think that even if you disagree with her, or if you're not someone who would completely identify with her like I did, it still would be a good read, I think, because I just think it's always good to read other perspectives. Next, continuing on with the month of nerdy reading, I read The Tales of Beetle the Bard by J.K. Rowling. It's a collection of sort of fables, I guess, that would be told to young wizards, and then there's also Dumbledore's commentary on them, on, what the fables mean, and maybe their origin, etc., just whatever notes. And this was a cute, fun book. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I don't remember for sure now, but yeah, it was a really quick, short read, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then next, the controversial one. I read Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which was written by Jack Thorne. And I had mixed feelings on this one, mixed feelings. It was a fun, compelling, enjoyable read. I read it in like an afternoon, but I didn't feel like the plot was especially unique. I mean, it was basically that episode of The Simpsons where Homer accidentally turns his toaster into a time machine. And I feel like there was kind of some plot holes. Like, there was certain points where I was like, that didn't really make any sense to me. And there was also the last act. It was just, there were so many like really convenient things that happened. I was kind of like, okay. I did really like Albus and Scorpius. I thought they were both great characters. I know a lot of people had a problem with, said there was queer baiting in the book. I could definitely see that with their relationship between Albus and Scorpius. They were maybe a little closer than most male friendships tend to be. Yeah, I ended up giving it 3 stars, which is kind of a neutral rating for me, but it was like I said, it was a fun read, but I didn't think it was that good. And I could definitely see though how the play would be much more impressive to actually see than to read. So that was my opinion on that. The next book that I read this month was an audiobook. I listened to The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes. And you all know that I have a bit of a tumultuous relationship with audiobooks. And this one wasn't too bad though. It was read by Shonda Rhimes, and she's much less annoying than Jenny Lawson, so that's great. Yeah, overall I liked the book. I gave it 3 stars. It got kind of boring at the end for me, which might have been because I was listening to it. Also, there was like a whole chapter on Grey's Anatomy, or on one of the characters from Grey's Anatomy, and I've never seen Grey's Anatomy, so I don't know who the fuck she was talking about, really. I didn't even tell you the premise of the book. For a year, Shonda Rhimes, who's a writer, she created Grey's Anatomy, How to Get Away with Murder, Parenthood, and Scandal, I think. Maybe something else. I might be missing something. Anyway, I've never seen any of those shows, so I don't really know anything about it. This was our book club pick for the week, for the month, which is why I read it. But yeah, it had a great message. She talks about, she started saying yes. She would always turn down like interviews, and if someone asked her to give a speech or attend events, she would always turn it down because she was like terrified of those kinds of things. So she decided that for years she was going to say yes to everything, if possible. And so she did, and she talks about her experiences and how much she grew in that year, and yeah, I think it was a really good overall message, and I do think that for someone who is very introverted, it's a nice book to read and see, you know, how many great experiences she had because she just had the balls to do them, you know. And of course, for like a person like myself, saying yes doesn't mean, you know, giving a speech in front of thousands of people like it does for her, but I think it's still a good thing to think about in your own everyday life as well. So yeah, 3 out of 5 stars for that one. If you're a fan of her shows, you might enjoy it a little bit more than I did, because she does reference her shows and stuff quite a bit through the book, but if you haven't watched her shows, you can still enjoy it as well. And then the last book I read this month was a classic that I finally got around to, and that's The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. This is a coming-of-age story of sorts about a angsty teenage boy, essentially. And I wasn't really sure what to expect going into it, because I feel like a lot of people love this book and a lot of people hate it. So I ended up really, really liking it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It's very, the writing is not always pleasant to read, I don't think, because it's told by Holden Caulfield, who's, I think he's 16 in the book. Correct me if I'm wrong there. And he talks, he's like very repetitive. He says a lot of the same phrases over and over and over again and speaks in very short sentences. So it's not the most pleasant to read, but I really enjoyed it. And I know a lot of people hate Holden Caulfield. I didn't hate him. I kind of liked him. I don't know, maybe that means I'm a terrible person or something, but he was, you know, angsty and just kind of a punk-ass kid, and he was like hipster emo because he just like hated everyone around him and thought everyone was lame, called everyone phonies, and then was also like sort of woe is me a lot of the time. But I feel like he was still grieving the loss of his brother, and also perhaps struggling with his sexuality, so I kind of felt bad for him. And also I found him really amusing at times. He actually, it might have been because I was a bit tired, but I started giggling uncontrollably at one point in this book where he's describing a movie, the plot of a movie that he watched and hated, because he hates everything, especially movies. Maybe I identified with him there because I'm not that into movies. But yeah, he's talking about this movie and just describing how terrible it was and blah blah blah, and he's like, it's about enough to make you puke all over yourself. Just like, I don't know, I just lost it. I thought it was hilarious. I also really loved, there's a part where he's talking about visiting a museum. I guess when he was a kid, his teachers would take them to this museum, and now his little sister is the age where she gets to go to the museum, and he's talking about how like everything in the museum stays the same, but you change every time you go there. And he says the only thing that would be different would be you. Not that you'd be so much older or anything, it wouldn't be that exactly, you'd just be different, that's all. You'd have an overcoat on this time, or the kid that was your partner in line the last time had got scarlet fever and you'd have a new partner, or you'd have a substitute taking the class instead of Miss Eglintinger, or you'd hear your mother and father having a terrific fight in the bathroom, or you just passed by one of those puddles in the street with gasoline rainbows in them. I mean, you'd be different in some way. I can't explain what I mean, and even if I could, I'm not sure I'd feel like it. So, I don't know, I just liked that part. He's very deep at times. He doesn't always seem like the most intelligent guy, just the way he speaks and everything, but he has these very deep, like, philosophical moments in the book, and that was one of them. And also one of my favorite parts was, he's at his sister's school, and he sees someone has written "fuck you" on the wall, and he thinks that's terrible to have these kids saying "fuck you." And then he ends up back at this museum, and he sees it again in the museum. Someone's written "fuck you" on the wall, and he's saying how, you know, you can't find any place nice and peaceful because someone always ruins it by writing "fuck you" on the wall or something. And he's saying about finding a place somewhere peaceful. You may think there is, but once you get there, when you're not looking, somebody will sneak up and write "fuck you" right under your nose. Try it sometime. I think even if I ever die, they stick me in a cemetery and I have a tombstone and all, it'll say Holden Caulfield on it, and then what year I was born and what year I died, and then right under that it'll say "fuck you." I'm positive, in fact. And I just thought that was really funny, and also kind of a more deep sort of philosophical moment there. But anyway, I feel like I've been talking forever. Yeah, I really, really liked The Catcher in the Rye. It's one of those that, first read through, 4 out of 5 stars. If I sit and think about it a little while longer, I could maybe bump it up to 5. I don't know. We'll see. But I really, really liked it. And I kind of liked Holden Caulfield, so I don't know. I guess maybe I'm a weirdo. Yeah, so that's everything I read in August. I feel like I talked for years about it, so hopefully this video is not super long. If you would like me to do a full review of any of these books, then let me know, and I can do that. If you've read any of these, let me know what you think. And thanks everyone for watching. And there'll be links below where you can find myself and Megan other places online. If you have not subscribed yet, please do, and I'll see you next time. Bye!